This presentation is on the Sakai 10 documentation project. So if you're not here for that, then you might be looking for something else. Otherwise, welcome. My name's Neil Caden. You might have seen me other places here. I feel like I've been everywhere. I'm the Sakai community coordinator and was part of a team that worked on the help documentation, and we can explain a little bit of the history. But first, I'm not sure what kind of flow you want to do, but why don't you introduce yourself, and then we'll figure that out.
I'll use the mic because I tend to be soft-spoken, so hopefully everybody can hear me. My name is Wilma Hodges. I'm the Director of Training and E-Learning Initiatives at Longsight, and I've been working with Neil and some other folks on the documentation project and rewriting all the help for Sakai 10. So that's what we're going to talk with you guys about today. And today is actually, today is a flipped session. Did we lose our, there it goes. All right. So just show of hands, how many people actually looked at the flipped materials ahead of time? Yay,
wow,
okay.
Very good.
Thank you.
Good job.
They are here. If you haven't seen them, haven't had a chance to look, please do. I'm not going to recap everything that we did. We did a little video that kind of talked about the history of the documentation project. We'll just summarize it real quick for you, for those of you who've already seen it. But there was sort of, there was a BOF last year, and I think maybe even the year before, there was some discussion about improving the help. And what can we do to make it more user-friendly, more accurate? Because a lot of different areas were being updated and some not. So we wanted some more consistency throughout. And then one of the things that we decided to do was to use a tool called Screensteps to work as a collaborative authoring platform for us for creating the new content, because it makes it a lot easier for distributed groups to collaborate on it and contribute to the help. It's also very visually rich because it works in a lot of Screensteps is kind of the name of the product. It takes screen capture at each step. So it makes it very easy to annotate those images and make it a little more user-friendly for your typical faculty member who's just looking to see where's that button they need to click on. It kind of gives them a picture. So. Some of the other materials that we had on here were, too far. I pointed you to the Screensteps concept videos. Those are actually on the software package website. If you're interested in authoring, if you want to get involved with the help effort, and you want to check out and see what Screensteps can do, I'll show you a little bit today what it looks like, what the authoring platform looks like. And they do have a 14-day trial. Let me just go over here. So what you can do if you want to just download it and try it out on your own, there's actually a trial. It's fully functional for 2 weeks. And if you have just like one help article that you're working on and you want to try it out and see how it works, you could author it like that, package it, and send it to us, and we can just pull it right in to the Apereo account. It's a cloud-based service, so it's based on a number of authors. And Neil can probably talk about that a little bit more. We did a pilot with just a small number of authors because we weren't sure how many people were going to be able to continually, contribute to it. So we started small, but there is a solo plan if you're interested in authoring a lot, but maybe we don't have enough, Apereo licenses. There's a fairly reasonable solo plan that you can buy, just kind of a standalone copy, either for you or for your institution to share among yourselves. There's also some really nice educational pricing if you wanted to use Screensteps at your institution. We can actually export all the content and provide you with the package. So you have the complete, package of all the help files that you can then pull into your Screensteps account and author and customize with your own logos and maybe the tool sets that your particular instance has enabled. So that was another thing that we really wanted to be able to do, is to be able to share the documentation more widely with folks so that they could actually customize it a little bit easier on their end. We can export as HTML as well. And another nice thing about Screensteps is that Integrates with, let me see if it's on here. Integrates with Zendesk and there we go. Back here. WordPress and Zendesk and Salesforce and a few other platforms. So if there's something that you already use, like if you're already using Zendesk, for example, and you wanted to import those articles to use in your knowledge base, that's very easy to do because it's already kind of set up that way with the software. So, Neil, did you want to add anything?
Yeah, I'll add a couple things. So one thing is that even though it is commercial software, we're not locked in because we can export in all these different formats. And in fact, we're able to export in formats that we were able to integrate into Sakai, and that was compliments of Sam Odenhoff alongside who wrote that integration to get the content out and move it into Sakai. We right now have 10 licenses. I'm not sure everyone's active, so if you wanted to participate, we still probably could use additional documentation help. But I think if you take a look at the documentation in Sakai 10, it's really improved. It looks really great. I'm sure there's some gaps that we've missed, so please feel free to point them out. If you have time to write something for the gaps and want to contribute that, please feel free to do that as well. The other thing I guess to mention is that it is on the web, so that's been a really big advantage of this new platform because the place to go is sakai.screenstepslive.com. You can log right into there. I mean, you don't have to log in. It's right there, public on the web.
Completely open. This
completely
is the
open.
address up here. I don't know if you can read it, but it's out there for the community. And this is the Screensteps site. It kind of generates a website with all the documentation. So everything that we publish goes here first, and then it's exported and put into the Sakai online help tool. So exporting it here gives us an opportunity to have people look at it, comment on it. There is a place to write feedback, so you can actually preview the documentation here. And if you scroll down to the bottom, there's a comment area where you can add your comments. Like if you see a missing feature, or if you have something that maybe would go hand in hand with a particular article that you want to contribute, you can write us a little note there. It comes back to anybody who has either owns the article, the original author, or to us.
Right, we'll actually get the comments. We get notified when comments come in, so that makes it easy for us to monitor and see if there's some error in the documentation or a gap that we might want to address in the future. You have a question?
Around people contributing to the Sakai 10 help. Then, so they, you got an account, they go in, they use the Screensteps, create the stuff. Is there some vetting process that then occurs?
Yeah, let me show
it's a really
you.
nice workflow, and that will look
This is Screensteps, actually. This is the desktop version of it. And you'll see we've got some different manuals in here. That's what we did, actually, is we broke it up into different manuals for different roles, because we got some feedback from the community that they wanted, instructor help and student help and admin help. So we kind of broke it up in that way. And then within it, it's organized by tool. But then you'll see in here in the authoring space, you've got the chapters, which are the tools. But then there's also an owner for the author. Like here's one that Dee Dee did. She's the author on that one. And you can see when it was authored, and there's a whole approval workflow. So I can go in, I've been sort of going through and doing that final check, going through and checking all the documentation that's been contributed and reviewing it for accuracy and then approving it. So there's you can tag in here. Is it something that you're still working on, needs content, it's just a placeholder? Is it something that needs to be reviewed by somebody? So we ask that our contributors, when they're done authoring it, they mark it as need review. That way we can search by those and it bubbles up and I can go through and systematically go through and review those and mark them as approved when they're ready to be put into the published help.
Yeah, I would say, just before I forget, one of the things is, I see a couple more questions and we'll get this.
Sorry.
No, it's totally cool. That's what this is about. It's intended primarily as a question session, so this is perfect. That's why it's kind of the flip. But I just want to mention one of the things it's enabled. You can see a really nice workflow has been wonderful. The other thing that it's enabled is, for example, I don't know if you noticed, but OSP documentation is there. Even though in 10, OSP is invisible. It's deprecated, right? And the reason for that is it was so easy to create new documentation that Jana Smith from 3Q said, hey, I have this OSP documentation. It's all there. Would you mind if we just added it? And we said, sure. So she just copy and pasted what she already had, and it's a relatively easy workflow to get it into into the documentation. But then there were a couple questions. So I thought, Jim and Tricia.
Well, I was just wondering, as part of your current workflow now, so if you just put my head around this spot. So would you put needs content if you were? Would you ever have people lead in the process of putting something in here where they would put needs content so that you as an approver would know to skip that for the time being because that's still in process?
I'll create an article so you can kind of see how that works. So here's a chapter that's already been created, and you can create an article on the server. And then when you first create them, they all start out as hidden by default. Okay. So it's not going to be visible in that website that I just showed you that's open to the public. It's hidden temporarily. So then you go in here to the article, and you can see that it's hidden. It flags you up at the top, and you would check it out. So everything, again, is cloud-based. So all of the final versions are on the server, and when you're working on them, you're checking out that particular document so that you're not going to be working on it while somebody else is working on it and overwriting each other. And there's also a nice history in there. You can actually revert back to earlier versions, earlier edits if need be. So if there was an error or your computer did something really funky and messed up an article, you can go back to an earlier version if you needed to. But then once you create the article and you give it a title, maybe it's just a placeholder article. So placeholder. Okay. So I have an idea for an article, and I want to get it in there while I'm thinking about it, but I'm not ready to actually sit down and write it. So I just give it a title, and then I can check it back in. And usually when we've kind of outlined, and these are on there's a Google Doc with kind of our process, so you can refer to that if you have questions. If there's something not in there, let me know, and we'll add it. But then these are all the people that currently have active author accounts. So you would pick your name. I'm going to pick myself because I'm assigning myself this particular article. And then I can give it a status that it needs content because I haven't actually written anything yet. And I can check it in either as draft or published. And what I've asked people to do is if they're actively working on it, check it in as draft. When they're done with it, go ahead and check it in as published, but mark it as needs a review. That way we know it needs to go, somebody needs to go back and just verify that it's accurate before it's actually published out. So I would mark it as draft. Hidden doesn't matter as much, it just reflects the visibility. So if we don't want to have a lot of empty articles out there on the website that people might stumble upon, we probably want to leave it as hidden. If it's actually got some content and you want some feedback on it, then you would need to mark it as visible. But I'm going to leave this one hidden for now, and then I just check it back in, and it uploads everything. If I have images, it does the alt tags for me, it uploads all that stuff, it kind of handles all of the logistics behind the file management piece of it. So it makes it really convenient and quick to upload a new article with all the stuff. And you can have Screensteps on multiple devices. So if you have, if you downloaded it, it's based on accounts, not installs. So if I have my copy here and then I have another copy on another computer, it's not going to count 2 copies. It's just going to count 1 user when I log in. So I can author here because everything is synced up on the server. I go to my other workstation. I've got all the images. I've got everything that has last been checked in. Now it does, until you check it in, it does stay on the local machine. So you need to make sure that you check things in when you're anticipating that you're going to another location or if you're done with it. Because until it's checked in, nobody else can do anything to that particular article. So, so that's, again, part of our process as an authoring group is to make sure that we check things in when we're not actually working on them. Did I answer your question? Whose question?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Sorry. Other questions? I thought yeah.
Policies, what do you do for from here, Sakai code?
That was gonna be my question.
Okay. So what we did is once you've got them in here, you have some different options for exporting, and I can export to HTML. And what we did was we created a custom HTML export for Sakai, and I worked with Sam on that to get the template to be what he needed as far as consuming the files on his end. So we tweaked the CSS and got all that set up. So now I just choose Sakai when I export to HTML, and it packages everything up for me, and then I just send him a zip file with all the HTML and the CSS and the images, and then he runs his magic on the other end to bring them into the online help tool.
Magic.
Mm-hmm.
The magic be shared. Not in this session necessarily.
Yeah, I'm sure that Sam would be happy to. I wouldn't presume to try to explain it.
Right now, and I wouldn't understand it if you could.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean, we're happy to share any of this. And as I said, you can create your own templates. So if you have something you want to customize for your institution and you wanted to create a custom export, then you could export with your logo, you know, whatever branding you wanted as part of the CSS. So like the individual screen captures might not have, you know, your color scheme. But what we tried to do is keep it very generic. So we tried to capture just the piece that we're talking about in the documentation to minimize the amount of branding that would be visible at any given time. So, you know, that's something we were sensitive to when we were creating the documentation.
So I'll mention that, you know, with the last iteration of help, and you might know this, but the previous iteration of help also had magic. It was just unsupported magic. You know, the phrase had gone away, so we weren't, so that wasn't working too well. It was really cumbersome stuff. So now we have supported magic, and hopefully it will be shareable magic. So if other people want to customize
and let me just show you. I don't know if you guys have seen it. This is what the help tool looks like in Sakai. And it is context sensitive, just like you're used to, except that we've got these different manuals over here that we've broken things up into. And then you can open up a particular manual and go to, you know, that area of the help. And it's got, you know, some more visuals and things like that. So all the help has been, you know, completely rewritten. We used the old help kind of as a guide, but all of these articles were authored, you know, kind of from scratch. So they should be as current as can be. We are still adding to it. We have plans to add an admin manual. And there's also some other folks. I know Jim I was talking to, he had some stuff to contribute. We're looking for some of the contrib tools. We'd like to add another manual for that, so that some of the tools that maybe aren't, because these are the core tools. That was our focus for the release, was providing, you know, essential help for the core tools. But we know that there's a lot of popular contrib tools out there that folks use, and we'd like to be able to incorporate that as well. So if you have things that you'd like to contribute, we will gladly take your content and work it in however we can. So.
And I'd say that
you said it's context sensitive. So does it know the role of the person that's using the system, so it knows to put in the student?
I believe that it does. I'm gonna go in here and look. I think it does. Let's see if it takes me to.
But you could be in different roles in different sites, so.
Yeah, well, it should
How
detect.
Presume to know.
Yeah, it tends to would know your role.
Sure.
That would be the role. But in this case,
Taking
it's
a
just
really long
coding, so
time to
you
log
won't
in.
see the manual. You'll see one of the other manuals.
Right, and you always have the opportunity to browse to another section of the manual, even if it gives you, you know, the default for that role. If you happen to be a TA and it gives you the student role, because we didn't make a whole TA manual, there just weren't enough differences. So it was sort of a subset of some of the instructor materials. So if, for whatever reason, you don't get the appropriate help, you can always search or go to a different manual, because all of them are available. And it looks like the wireless is being a little flaky.
It's slow.
Yeah.
I can see it trying to spin up there.
Now it's telling me I don't have, no, it says unconnected.
The Hilton meeting room seems to go away mysteriously.
Yeah. Oh, nice. Okay, we're not connected, but you get the idea. I'm fairly certain that it does detect your role. I know that was one of the last pieces we were working on right before the release client. So I know that that was definitely the plan. Did we have other questions? Yes.
Yes, we know that in Section 2.9 we have lots of help in different languages.
Mm-hmm.
So what about this language? I just see English in the Sakai.
Yeah, we are hoping to recruit people to do some translations. So that was, again,
I'll get a license for you. If you want to translate to another language, I'll find a way to get a license for you for Screensteps so you can contribute. I did put a call out to the IETN community, just I didn't think anyone had time and bandwidth at the time to do it, but we're very interested in some translations.
In the end of this month, in China, there will be a conference of Sakai. And at that time, I hope to call some people to translate.
Great.
Oh, that would be wonderful.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah, let us know, because what we can do is we can export all the English documentation, copy it over, so you have a starting point, and then you can just take it from there. So whatever format, I mean, ideally, we'd set you up with a Screensteps account and have you author it in Screensteps. As a sort of a backup plan, if that was not possible for whatever reason, we could also export to HTML. You work with the raw HTML files. So, but Screensteps would be preferable because it kind of feeds into the process a lot
I think
better.
we can get you a license for translation.
Yeah.
I think at my mobile hotspot, if you want to try mobile hotspot, get there.
Saying I'm connected, which is
HTC.
odd.
Mine's HTC, NBC or something. It's on.
I'm trying to disconnect.
There it is. HTC_NBC. That's me. And it'll require a password. I'll type it in. I'll type it in. Everyone will see it. No, look at my high characters. Although I don't really care anyone in this room could log onto my hotspot.
If you notice all these people following you around.
Right. Okay, let's see. Whoops, that's correct.
Sorry, I missed the start, you might have said this, but if another institution has some slight differences, can they go in and kind of change some bits of it and then export it for their particular
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Now, the main account, we would need to make a copy for you to modify. We want to change the original. We want to keep that one so that it stays fairly static. But if you would like a copy of the entire thing, we can export it all as Screensteps, and then you can modify to your heart's content. And you would probably need an institutional license, but they are very reasonable with the education.
So presumably you don't sort of patch the documentation. So when you move to a new version of Sakai, you have to basically start again and add changes again manually.
We haven't really gotten that far because we were focusing on updating what we had at the moment. But what we're planning to do is as this builds, we can tag these for versions. I don't know if you can see it; it's really faint. These are all tagged for 10. So as changes become incorporated into the code, we would tag them for other versions.
It sounds like you're better off doing an export and then sticking it in Subversion and patching it yourself. So
Probably, yeah. If you have a lot of customizations, then yes, that might be a better strategy for you. Yeah. Other questions? I know we have a couple of people that were here. I know Dee Dee.
Screensteps auto revision.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
The Screensteps auto revision control.
I'm sorry.
If I want revision control, if I want to see the history of the document.
Yes. Yeah. And there was another question over here. Yeah. Okay. So yes.
If the tool is listed in the help menu, that means it's not done yet? Or?
Well, we focused on the core tools, and there are a few admin tools that are going to be in the admin manual, which we haven't fully developed yet. But by and large, all of the core tools are represented. So it could be a contrib tool that's not in there.
What did you say? What kind of? What's that?
Calturo.
Kaltura. That's a contrib. Tool.
Right.
It's not a core tool.
Right. Yeah, and those are on the horizon, but we haven't gotten to them yet. So if you use it and would like to contribute documentation, we'd be happy to incorporate that. Another thing that we'd like to do in future help is to incorporate other types of media. So if you have maybe tutorials, I know we were talking about the user stories. So if there's an article on Gradebook, then maybe have some links out to other resources, maybe a use case for Gradebook, or a video tutorial on how to do something in Gradebook. So all that's possible. We just encourage people to share the resources that they have, or if they want to create new ones, to work closely with us so that we can make sure to include that in the documentation set. And I know we had some folks who were involved with the process. I don't know if anybody wants to talk about it. Dee Dee? Yeah?
I never mind talking. It was a great project so far. I mean, I have to say, I like documenting things, but I've learned a lot, especially about voice and how to present it. Like, Wilma came up with this great framework where we all agreed upon what kind of dot are you going to use, or arrow, or color, and the voice, how you can present it. Is it going to be a question? Because when you're creating them, otherwise, because my students were trying to help because they thought the project was really cool, but the way they gave me the information was just like, oh, don't touch me. Because you want to, because the screenshots are fine, the instructions are fine, but the voice was wrong. They were talking to the audience. Well, now you turn around and you copied it in, and that voice was just inappropriate. You too hard to follow through and make sure they have the grammar correct. So, Wilma did a great job of coming up with a style guide and a sheet that we went through on the first and second meeting that said, let's all agree that this is the best way to use it and why, and then we all followed that. So by the time she had to review all of them, thank you very much. So, she could say, oh, this we didn't get really, so this is, we don't know. But that was one of the frameworks to make it easier to start a project.
I just want to say that I have sat in previous years groups to look at the health and solve the health problem. And it never got anywhere. I mean, it just never did, and I thought it never would. And my hat's off to all of you for finding this solution, and it is remarkable. I'm just blown away by it, and I commend you all.
We had a lot of people that really did a tremendous amount of work. So, I certainly couldn't have done it by myself, and Neil was great at coordinating and having Adobe Connect rooms for us, and our group of volunteers, we have 10 folks who really did a lot of content authoring. So, they did a tremendous amount as well. So, yeah.
There was clearly a lot of energy in the community from last year's Birds of a Feather, and there was a planning group that came out of that. But then, we were exploring what the solution would be, and we were trying to come up with like a stopgap measure when this kind of solution emerged. And because of that energy that came out of the conference, it put us in a position we were ready to sort of evaluate it, right? And quickly, and go, yeah, that actually looks like.
I know the timing must have been perfect.
Timing's great.
That.
Yeah.
Because the Screensteps is a really cool tool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've never seen anything like it. I've seen things that have elements of it, but not all of it together, and I can't wait to adopt it.
And I don't know if I've showed you, I created an article just because that one is, where was it?
As I say, looking at the requirements, I kind of reviewed them, and there are requirements that we came out of the help documentation drop last year. I think this meets a lot of them. I think there's still a few things where it won't, but given how easy it is to use, it seems like it might be something we want to kind of stick with for a while.
Yeah, I
Unless
just
something
wanted to show you
better or easier comes along, but this is pretty easy.
Pretty good.
If it will connect successfully. It did. Okay. The ease of creating a screenshot, I mean, here's your
Make sure my
screen
password's
capture.
there.
Yeah.
Oh, is it?
It's not hidden. No.
Sorry.
That's okay.
And it's already in Screensteps, and then from there.
So to
you
log on
just,
to Neil's hotspot, then you could connect with the numbers.
It makes it so easy, and then if you need to swap out that picture, you can actually swap out the picture without losing your annotations. So if there's just a real minor change in the UI and you want to update the image but not lose any text or arrows, you might have to move them a little bit, but it makes for a very easy to use piece of software. So the learning curve is low. That makes it easier for people to adopt as a tool to contribute. So
The
that was
fact
something.
that all of the objects and the content is in the cloud, so your team can, anybody can go get it. You don't have to go upload it to your site, your Sakai site, and then oh, I forgot to do that. You don't have that. Oh darn! Now I have to go find it and.
Yeah, where did I save that image?
It's just there. I love that. I love it.
Yeah. Any other questions or comments? We've still got plenty of time, so I'm happy to talk more about this. I really wanted this part to be getting community feedback, to see what you guys think of it, and where you would like it to go. So, yes?
Has there been any thought to where, for where documentation already exists, where you could go deeper for some, or like I know you talked about that a little bit, but like one of the, for me, one of the big challenges with documentation is getting past what I call the getting started phase of documentation, because there's always a lot of that. I've noticed for just about anything that you want to do anywhere. What's often more difficult is getting to more advanced use cases where you have to go deeper into the tool, and you might have to add more content than you already have. Where it's like, here's, especially for some tools like, Samgo or something like that, where it's like, it's easy to say, here's how to add a quiz. Or it's not easy to say, here's how to add a quiz.
Yeah, that was a bad example.
That's a bad example. But it's a good example of just how easily you can kind of go off and click, because there's a lot of other things. But I'm just wondering if I know we're going to continue just what we talked about, but about like, within this workflow, there would be ways to say, here's, and one thing I noticed too, like for instance, for some tools like Lesson Builder, for instance, is one tool where the kind of workflow for editing is kind of drastically different in some ways than other tools, because when you click edit, you get a whole bunch of stuff that you normally, it's one of the only tools I can see where you can add something really quickly. And then when you go to edit it, there's a whole bucket load of stuff that you don't see, until you edit it. And so there's like challenges like that where you could like try and add more how-to for some of that stuff, or like conditional things like that. But,
yeah. Our goal for the first rollout was just to get some basic help for all the core tools.
Right.
That was kind of phase one. But we definitely want to be able to dive deeper into some of those edge cases that are a little more complex. Because that's where people really need the help, I mean, if they want to help with something really basic, they might not even look at the help. They might just, ask somebody in the next cubicle. So we want to make sure that we do take a deeper dive into some of those tools, and that's a great opportunity for people to get involved. I mean, even if you don't want to be, continually contributing, but there's this one particular tool that you really care about, and you can think of some really innovative ways to use that. Please let us know so we can work that in. Because we will, anytime there's a point release, we'll be re-exporting all the content. So we'll try to keep the online help tool as updated as possible with the exports from Screensteps. So anything that we develop in the meantime will go into that next release. So we have another one coming up in July. Probably end of July, we'll have 10.1, and hopefully we can have a few more of those admin documents in there at that point, and maybe some other use cases for different tools. So, yes.
All the administrators guys alongside these.
Yes.
Same interface.
Mm-hmm. I thought I saw you. Yes. You. Diego.
About implementation. If you have an account here and you have a language, in the same account you can have different projects or even only for a project. So you have in the same account English and Spanish, or you need different accounts for each.
I think with the same account you can author in multiple, because I could have a manual for Spanish, a manual for English, French, whatever languages.
I think that Screensteps has a how-to on how to do the translation on their website. I'm pretty sure.
They do.
Do they?
But it's a single user account, so that user might have multiple manuals that they work with in different languages. Yes?
Do you have document available? You said you came up with some requirements for the tool that you would use for the help, and then some of the requirements are not quite met by the Screensteps. Do you have that document available?
Yeah, I'd be happy to share it. I don't have it, I think it's on a Google Doc. I remember looking it up before the conference a month ago, just to kind of look at what we've accomplished versus, what was in that document. Yeah, I'd be happy to share that so you can look through it. Yeah. So the answer is yes, I'd be happy to dig that up and share it. I'm not sure the best way to share it.
Maybe on the lanyard.
Maybe on lanyard, yeah.
Yeah, we can do that.
That'd be fun. Yeah.
Screensteps documentation pages, there's a comment box from
That goes back to us. So it goes, I get copied, Neil gets copied, and the owner, the person who created the document gets copied. Yes. Yeah, that would be scary if they weren't. Yes, they are moderated. So we get the comment, but then we have to approve it before anybody else can see it. Yes.
So we can export the content from Screensteps to significantly, or just you export it daily to a certain place.
I didn't catch the last part. When you export to a
So if
single
it is not anybody can't export it, so I think there should be a place for the public to download the zip file.
Oh, okay. Yeah, we could do that. We could set up a place for anyone to download it. You do need a Screensteps authoring account to be able to export it, so that would limit the number of people. But we can, post the zip file of the HTML files out there for folks to get if they, don't have a Screensteps account, but they just want the HTML or the Screensteps version of it as well. It's not available right now, but it will be available later today. Yeah.
Then just second that, great if every time somebody makes a change, you can undo it.
Well, we would probably do it on a schedule because changes can be minor and the export takes a little while to run. So yeah, but we could certainly, put it out there maybe once a week, once a month, depending on how often changes are being made, and just put the last date, so you'll know how recent that particular zip file is. But yeah, that's a terrific idea. We'll definitely make that available. Neil, anything else you want to? Oh, I saw a hand.
Posted requirements for 13.
Oh, great, thank you.
Most of them are in there, and the ones that aren't are question of interpretation and things like, these are ideas, this is not a tool. Permission is one that would make it. So you can limiting help on adding an assignment, or let's say creating an assignment. Limiting help on creating an assignment even though creating permissions. So the TA can't see it, but the instructor and our university's super TA role can't see it. That kind of is there.
Right.
But
yeah, that piece.
so many other
That piece was, we had a kind of a debate on how much people should be able to see, and I think the consensus was that they wanted people to be able to go and browse it because that's kind of what they had now, and we didn't want to take that away. So, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I just, it feels like it's been a success, and so it's something that we'll continue to do, and I'm not sure, we haven't really checked back lately with the current set of people who helped to create the documentation. It's possible they would want to continue to, support that. It might be that slots open up and take other contributors or possibly get additional licenses, and like I said, for translations, I'd really love to see more translations. I'm pretty confident we can get licenses for that. It's been a really fun process, and I really appreciate Wilma's hard work on that. We've already plotted for months. We can always plot it again, and also so that's it. I just appreciate the community help. It was a really nice project. It went really smoothly. This did seem to meet most of our requirements, and feels definitely like a success. And I think that in Sakai 10, people will see that. It was something that I regretted. I missed it in my what's new, and I did mention it in a community presentation I did, but I forgot to mention it in what's new in Sakai 10. I forgot to mention this great new help feature. So people get pleasantly surprised by this extra great stuff that's in there that I didn't even cover in that presentation.
Well, thank you all for being here, and I do hope that you'll get involved with the help effort. I mean, there's plenty of documentation to go around, so. All right, thank you.